Game number 2 last night inside Madison Square Garden between the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks. A similar story for the Knickerbockers throughout this postseason. A game decided by single digits, or at least fewer than 11 points. All 8 playoff games for New York decided by less than that margin. Last night, it was 9, and it was not easy for the Knicks. Banged up throughout. Jalen Brunson missed the entirety of the second quarter. OG Anunoby picked up the slack through the first 3 quarters. He left early in the third with a hamstring strain to his left leg, but still, the Knicks find a way to gut it out. All 5 starters score in double figures, and New York takes a 2-0 series lead, winning 130-121. The Knickerbockers cover as a 4.5-point home favorite inside Madison Square Garden. Total of 219. Sails over once again.
Smoke that total, too. I mean, you're really talking about that 130-121, but also getting into the game itself. It seems like we're drawing back on like what the Lakers do in the playoffs. Let's get double-digit leads, big leads all throughout the game, only to blow it late. Now, you do have to credit the New York Knicks here. You know, running on like basically a half tank of gas with your superstar players banged up, and you lose OG Anunoby. Now, the thing I like best about this is I am the professor of hamstring injuries. So I love the fact that he left because of a sore hamstring. Let me get this right now. You won't see OG Anunoby for the rest of this playoff series. I'll be your doctor right now, because if you can't finish the game with a hamstring injury, it doesn't miraculously get better overnight, and there's no drugs or anything that you can take to support it and get that hamstring back right. That's a devastating injury. And also, we don't know the day after even, Ben, after that great performance coming back in the second half from Brunson, how his actual foot is going to feel today and moving forward, if that's going to be a hindrance. But the one good thing about the New York Knicks here, Ben, is they do have the lead 2-0, so you can play around a little bit with these injuries, as opposed to you wanting to get on that court in games 3 and 4 and really handle your business. Maybe it's best if they get a rest. We'll see how that plays out. But let's take a look at Dante DiVincenzo. Talked about it here in the Sixers series. Game number 6 on the road. He's got to be a better three-point shooter, and he was. Then you saw game number 1, better three-point shooter at home, and he was. And you saw last night when they needed him, another 6 triples drained en route to 28 total points scored easily, eclipsing his points prop. I love the guttiness of what we're getting out of New York here, specifically at home. 2-0 series lead. They can afford some of these injuries because they're not down 0-2, and they're not certainly down in a split. Let's just say 1-1 heading back to Indianapolis. Like what I see out of the Knicks, but boy, am I leery about game number 3 of who's actually going to be in the lineup for the New York Knicks.
Just an early peek. Of course, we'll forecast the rest of this series in a moment, but the Pacers return to Indianapolis tomorrow night to host the New York Knicks. Not a lot of off days between, even as we change venues, and Indiana is booked as a 6.5-point favorite to get its first win of this series. Again, an indication that New York and OG Anunoby are banged up, and the depth has not been there for New York all playoff long. Certainly here now in this series. Of course, we learned earlier this week, Mitchell Robinson out for the remainder of this postseason. But as we focus on game number 2, Dante DiVincenzo, 6 triples last night over his 3-point prop of 3.5 with some plus money to the over. Josh Hart continues to do everything. I have made the joke before, but I'm not so sure it is a joke. A basketball player crafted and molded in a lab made by Tom Thibodeau for Tibbs. All 48 minutes once again. 19 points over his points prop, 15 rebounds, and his rebounding number was set at 12.5. Josh Hart does everything that New York needs, and even missing a full 12 minutes, the entirety of the second quarter, Jalen Brunson scores 29 points. His 4-game streak of scoring at least 40 does come to a close, but if he played the second stanza DRS, he probably would have reached the 40-point benchmark once again.
Yeah, plus 26 in that game. So it tells you how important he was in a game that was decided by 9 points. And also, we always talk about like some spread drama. Once again, late in that basketball game, it wasn't necessarily who was going to win, but you saw a couple-point lead here by the Knicks. They get a bad call against them. It gets overturned in their favor. And then you see the double technical foul by Rick Carlisle gets tossed out of that game, and you cover that line. Now, here's also one of the anomalies that we're looking at. In that Sixer series, like Miles McBride was really good off the bench. And like, wow, this is a double-digit score that can give you instant offense. I take a look at McBride, plays 20 minutes, Ben, scores 4 points, but it was a minus 22 in that game. Looks like Dante DiVincenzo is going to like, hey, Miles, you sit it out, man. I got you covered in game number 3 at this point. But as I digress, you get to that game number 3, I don't know what I'm going to get out of the Knicks because it's a shame. OG Anunoby coming into his own, 28 points, and now probably looks like he won't play again in this series. That's a devastating blow, and also coming off the injury of Mitchell Robinson, who's not obviously going to play in this series. And we already know from Julius Randle for the regular season. This team is just battle-tested out here. Hey, next man up is the mentality for the New York Knicks.
In only 3 quarters and a little bit less than 3 quarters, Anunoby made 4 threes, scored 28 points, was on pace for his best ever playoff game, but over his points prop of 16.5. Dante DiVincenzo over 18 and a hook. Isaiah Hartenstein over 11.5, finished with 14 points and 12 boards. On the other side, Tyrese Halliburton, after only 6 points in the opening game of this series, responds in a big way last night, scoring 34. We talked about the bench production. Obi Toppin scored 20. Indiana's bench scores 41 as a team. Even more than that, 46 as a team with the addition of 5 points from Jackson. And yet they still lost by 9 points on the road inside Madison Square Garden. And DRS, when you look at the series prices right now, New York is up 2-0. They head to Indianapolis tomorrow night for game number 3. We shared the Pacers a 6.5-point favorite for this third game. The Knicks were entering yesterday a minus 420 favorite to win this series outright after taking that commanding 2-0 series lead. The price only moved by 50 cents, now minus 470, I think because of the injury uncertainty around New York the rest of the way.
Yeah, I don't like what I saw of the Pacers in effect of how the games ended, right? Because they're down 0-2. But they were competitive in both of those basketball games, and we're talking about attrition that's going to hit the Knicks. And again, I'm not a doctor in the room. But when you leave the game because of a hamstring injury, you usually don't come back for at least 2 weeks. So I look at that Game 7 price at a plus 200. Love that. I look at the Pacers getting 2.5 games at minus 144. I love that right now because I'm trying to project a banged-up Brunson. Anunoby's down. Robinson already not there. Now 2 games on the home court for the Pacers. I think there's a good chance they even it up before we get back to Madison Square Garden.